Coops, the Dogs, huge occasion there. A lot of Dogs fans went there with, a lot of expectation, not the result they wanted. I'm hearing a lot of people say, well, they got too many utilities and all that sort of stuff. We really don't know until they get an even 50-50 split of possession.
Yep.
They're really under the pump.
Yeah, they're on the pump statistically in that game. Look, I think the Dogs, their number one thing they need to improve is their defence. It was poor last year. And at different stages during the pre-season challenge, they showed signs. And if you go back and watch the first 30 minutes of the Eels game, they defended their goal line stoically for a long period. So I think there's enough signs out of that. The other part to it is their attack and their combination work. Like that left side, Burton, kick out, Kryon, Addo-Carr, that needs to be unlocked. But if they can keep that defence improving and stop teams, like I know the scoreboard ticked over towards the back end, but the first 30 minutes, they defensively they were all right.
And Parramatta were good and had a lot of field possession. Geez, mate, just a little thing on possession. On defence. Kryon. It's just there was a moment in the game in the first half, and Parramatta shift the ball to the right-hand side, and Kryon and his winger, they find themselves 2-on-2 with an ocean of space. And at that point, the centre, you would sort of sit and go, well, what's he going to do? Kryon, with 2-on-2 with all that space, just went bang and hit him. It was just so decisive. There's talk about him going to fullback.
No.
You've got to keep him in the centres.
Don't. I understand why, but there's two sides of the game, and he is arguably the best defensive centre we have in the competition.
Yep.
I think he defends better than any centre with his head on a swivel. Like, you can throw him different options, and he's forever got one eye on the ball, one eye on the man. He makes that intercept in the grand final against South. He's come up with big defensive plays. And I think as captain of that footy club, I think he can have a huge impact defensively for that team.
Coops, what I want to do, I'm going to talk about Matty Burton in a second. What I want to do is give people an insight into the battle that exists within playmakers. And it's balancing the two aspects of their game, controlling the team and organising the team and the attacking sequences while still presenting themselves as an individual threat.
Yep.
Very hard to do. Of late, I've spoken to some of the best sevens in the game, like Nathan, and they say it's a battle they almost deal with on a weekly basis. Matty Burton, I want to start with Matty. Brilliant run of the football. Huge fan of Burton. He was his final year there at Penrith when they won the grand final, and his origin experience, he was super. I saw it last year. I know it's only round one, but I saw aspects of it last year, and I saw it on the weekend. Just sort of being suffocated a little bit by what he perceives to be his responsibilities as a playmaker.
Expectation.
Thinking that I've got to... It's almost like, Coops, the number on the jersey is dictating how he plays, and suffocating his strengths rather than vice versa. I'll take my strengths to the jersey.
I agree. I think, again, instead of the jersey determining how you play, right, write down 2 or 3 things that you're great at and they be the focus of what you do. I think the other thing too, I think Matt Burton for me feels like he needs a genuine half, right, that takes care of all the other things that come into play with the half play.
Yep.
And if they can create space for Matt, I think that's when Matt will flourish. Give him kick out, give him Kryon, give him Addo-Carr on the left-hand side. He doesn't really have to think too much. Look at Jerome Luai at Penrith the last few years. He doesn't leave the left-hand side. All he does, he sits there, counts numbers and says, Nathan, give me the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the type of play that sort of Matt Burton needs. And I think if you're not a traditional half and you're not comfortable doing first receiver stuff, I think you probably need a ball playing 13 to help you play sort of on the overs to get some momentum going. And Jamin Salmon's not Isaiah, he's not Victor Radley, but I think there's something there with Salmon that can provide a little bit of open space for Burton to become more comfortable on the left-hand side. In terms of Burton, what you said's right. He's handcuffed to a certain way that he should be playing. But I think there's enough tools at the Bulldogs for him to be unlocked. Yeah. That left-hand side, on paper, could be the best left-hand side in the competition.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? You've got to create space in and around the middle and get Burton one pass wide. Don't get him chewed up with a lot of defenders in and around him because he's not that quick and mobile in and around that. But get him moving onto the football, and I think we've got a different situation there.
I think it's important for him to understand that it's just not him that deals with that battle. Well done to Matty Burton. Burton, last week, we spoke about how it can be difficult as a playmaker to burden yourself with organisation. The first thing that's going to suffer is your running game. Last week, simplified his game. One of two things. Got the ball and either challenged the bloke in front of him with his size and his speed and his footwork, or fed kick out early. One of two things.
He simplified things. He was a run threat. He was a big body, and he did the things that he's good at. And while they didn't win, there was signs that says that he changed his approach slightly.
Played against a very, very good football side at the moment, Sharks.
Yeah.
Sharks, we had Nico on the show on Sunday night talking before, and I said, you can just see with the Sharks that they've had a very thoughtful pre-season. They've sat back and said, right, what are the things that have let us down in the big games? And this year they're playing so much more physical. We showed it on Sunday night, a set I think probably typifies what they did. Early in the game, McGuinness drives forward, then Nico takes the next ball, hits Teague Wilton short, doubles around the same way, hits Talakai short, and then a tackle or two later, Trindle does the same thing and Wilton hits another hole. Wilton went through, I think just before half-time, a ball off Nico. Wilton is playing. Wilton and Nakora are beautiful hole runners, but just the Sharks, they're playing very physical.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've noticed about the Sharks, they're defending better for longer periods.
Yep.
I think the coach's personality is starting to come through their DNA the way they play, because in round one, I think against the Warriors got out to 12-0 after 15 minutes, right? So that means for like more than a game and a half, they've only conceded one try.
Yeah.
So you can talk about Nico, you can talk about Wilton, Nakora, but for me, I think they're defending like a championship team.
Yes.
They're doing like the tough stuff for longer periods, and that is Craig Fitzgibbon 101.
First time that the Dogs have kept an opponent to zero for almost 20 years, I believe.
No way.
That was a stat that was thrown at me.
You've been hitting the computer and the stat system yourself, haven't
As you know, I don't own a computer. Someone who was on a computer told me.
You
I
that.
just hope that.
Right.
But, we said about before, the Tigers simplified their game plan. That's what we've seen the last 2 weeks with the Bulldogs. Simplifying things, how the team plays, less errors, which means they're more physical, more gas in the tank, kick hours.
Yeah.
It was best game I've seen him play last week in a Bulldogs jersey. He was better again.
And that Burton kick out Kryon, there's just something brewing there. Like, it looks like there's a little bit of chemistry coming along there. And I'd love to see it up in full throttle, put Addo Carr on the end of it. But then it's going to be a real challenge for Drew Hutchison on the other side of the field, because if I'm any team coming against the Dogs in a little bit of form, what am I doing? I'm just going to load up defenders on the right side defence, left on the Dogs, say, righto, you want to come this way? Good luck. I'm going to put an extra defender there.
Mate, I just like some of the things they did in the tough areas of the game. Said before, kick chase, but also kick harassment. They never left Tanner Boyd alone. Yeah. They were just at him all the time.
Had a bad day though.
Reid Marnie was really good. Yeah,
it's funny when you talk about that kick pressure or kick harassment. It was obvious that the Dogs were going after Tanner Boyd, and they got rewards. He fluffed a couple of them. And on the flip side, in the big game on Friday night, Sam Walker had acres of time to kick the ball. Every time he kicked in that first half, there was zero intensity and pressure coming from South Sydney. So it's a very good indicator early on, whether you're a coach, a player, fan, or just watching, is if your team is on, look for kick pressure, because that's the indicator of someone's willing to do an extra effort that might just come back and help you out.
Dogs have been on the improve. We said last week they just need some W's, and they got one against the Roosters. The bloke we've spoken about a lot, Matt Burton, 3 tries and firing them. What we've seen with Matt, this is an interesting one. We've seen someone where, we could say that, he's admitted himself, wearing that 6 jersey or playing in the halves, really not so much confused him, but it weighed heavily on him. Yeah. And to find form, he simplified his game. Yep. Run the football, feed kick out early. And once he's gone back to base and got his confidence there and started to find his strengths again, you just see him building brick by brick. There was their first try the other night is evidence of it. He catches the ball from the scrum and he runs directly to his opposite man. And you see that Suoli'i is just standing, he's on the outside man. And the pace that he goes at Matty Burton, you just see Suoli'i's just sort of glancing on the inside. Matty Burton does like a dummy and then gives the impression he's going to go, and Suoli'i just turns in and it's around the back. It was just a little play. It wasn't a big one, but again, it just shows you how now Matty is starting to build on his football.
The other thing I'd love to see now, not that it's going to be this week or next week for Burton, is he has this massive human outside in Viliami Kikau, right? I'd love to see some variations with Kikau.
Gotcha.
For example, we just spoke about the Warriors about going away and coming back, right? Let's say he plays short to Kikau straight into a half. He goes back to the nearest post, comes back with the same look, but double pumps to Kikau and plays out the back, or might be Kryon this week or whoever the fullback is, just to mix that up. Like, use the threat. It should be a running threat for Matt, a short pass for Kikau, or the half or the fullback coming around and joining them.
Well, it'd be a nice little keep going play if you went up. You got Blake Taft sweeping around the back on a sweep block formation, and you hit Kikau short. Then you rip around the same way and go again to Kryon.
Shot plays.
That left hand side of the Dogs, of Burton, Kikau, and Kryon starting to be a beauty. And Coops, I thought they got their balance right with the football. Of course, they've got a lot of utilities who can use the football in the middle of the field. You know, you've got Kurt Mann, you've got Josh Curran that comes off the bench. It's very easy for that football side to start playing too sideways and just be skimming across the defence. But they got it right the other night. I thought the bloke that actually really sort of straightened them up a little bit and ensured they didn't get too sideways was Josh Curran. Curran come off the bench. I thought he was really good. Some footwork and just punching through. Because Curran can use the football a bit. He didn't bother. There was enough playmakers out there.
And that's for oppositions to pick out. Like, even just watching the Dogs now. Like, if the Dogs ever went to a middle forward where Marnie, Mann, Curran are all out in the field at one time, centralise your attack, power game through the middle, create quick play the balls and go off that, right? So there's going to be that chess game against the Dogs. If they want to go small and play lateral, well, then oppositions might just actually go, tighten up. We're going to take on your small body.
I went the Dogs. I thought they were they were tremendous. No Burton, no Kikau, no Kryon. Lost Addo Carr with a hamstring injury. It's just proven the strength of this team is the team itself, not the individual. And the three guys that, really impressed me is Hayward, Salmon and Kurt Mann. Because you've got three blokes there who can just chip in with the ball playing. They've got a smaller pack, Coops, and that little bit that they need to play football in yardage to win that yardage battle. And the thing I like about those blokes in the middle, Bailey Hayward and that they're able to play football, is it allows the Bulldogs to open up the field. They can play a little bit of sideline to sideline football because those blokes in the middle, that lightweight middle man, can play football and they can use the football.
And we're just starting to see the fruits of Ciraldo. Like, you got to remember, Ciraldo set up the best defensive unit in Penrith. It's the best defence we've ever seen. And he was the architect of that. And the old Rome wasn't built in a day mindset, that the Dogs now have gone from the worst defensive team to one of the best. And their goal line defence on the weekend was terrific. Fantastic. They missed a couple of tackles, but they're scrambled, the desire. They're starting to become a team that's hard to score against. And when you lose your best players, Burton, Kikau and the like, Crichton, your defence needs to stand up, and they won that game off the back of that.
Something about Reid. Reid, terrific footballer, and I really like him. He come on the show. He's just got to be careful. Like, at the moment, he's got the reputation of being a pest, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of chirp, but you don't want to become a caricature of yourself.
You need your football to be the first thing people think of, not your personality or behaviour.
I've got a point to Jacob Carraz. I thought Carraz was fantastic.
When he went to fullback too, when Connor Tracy went off.
He took a one where about three nice players, and he's gone right in the middle of them. It was terrific football.
Steve Kryon, mate, what a player.
Mate,
strength to strength.
You know what? There's a couple of things with Kryon I really like. He's just about the best defensive. I've never seen a better defensive centre. I mean, Steve Rogers, growing up as a kid watching Sludge as a defensive centre, was incredible. Ruben Wiki was, a great defender, scary when he played in the centres. Crichton's decision making and he's just second to none. And he's in he can hold a defensive pattern, but also he allows himself his instincts. Yeah. Hence why he picks off intercepts in so many big games.
It's sort of like he defends in between, but then 9 times out of 10 he makes the right decision. Like, I've never defended out wide, and I don't want to because it's a scary place. Cobbo looked like he was just shut down completely when he was there. Like, some of the bootlace tackles, remarkable.
The other thing I like about him is strength, his leadership and his strength of personality. He came on the show on a Sunday night about a month ago, him and Jacob Kraz. Jacob Kraz, what a lovely bloke. Jacob's sitting there, and he's a young guy, and we're asking questions. I'm asking questions at the two of them, and Steve's sort of pausing a little bit after answering a few, waiting for Jacob to kick in, and he's having to answer it. Anyway, at one point we went to I asked the question, Steve started talking, and we went to some vision, and he slapped Jacob Kraz on the arm and said, pick up.
Yeah.
A little
that's
bit.
That's what you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's what I was sort of question mark, why is he captain? There at the start of the year. Mate, he's passed every test. He's been absolutely unbelievable. I actually tossed him up. He could be the New South Wales captain when they hadn't made Jakey captain, because the job he's done at Canterbury, it's unbelievable.
He's been brilliant. I'm really happy for the Dogs too. I love the way they play. They've got a smaller pack of forwards, but they know how to make it work, to play with a little bit of subtlety. If I was Benji, I'd just change the mindset. I'll just say, boys, right, let's sit in the room. Right? We're going to make our side a really hard side to play against and a hard side to beat.
Yep.
And that's a different mindset, Woodsy.
You know who's done that? The Bulldogs.
That's right.
Yeah, they didn't get those wins early on in the season, but, mate, they pushed the Sharks and, they pushed good sides, but now they're getting reward for the effort and defence, because teams know they're that hard to score against. Yeah. Now they're coming up with a bit of combination with how dangerous is their left edge when they're fully fit?
I think there's a better edge in the competition at the moment.
No, not at all. And that's what the Tigers got to build. I know Tigers they've got Clem out, they've got Bateman, they've got Papa Lee. So there's 3 big middles.
Yep. With that theme, let's talk about the rise of the Canterbury Bulldogs. And you were saying about how winning starts in the off-season. Laying the bedrock down, giving yourself that big, strong base. You can see with the Bulldogs, the way they're playing their football, Cameron Serraldo had a real vision of how we wanted to play. Yep. And they've recruited on that, etc. And I'll just go back, I'll take a little half step back there for a second. This is why one of the things I don't get is when a club decides, I think it's time to move someone on, a coach. But I'll tell you what, to save face, let's give him the first 6 rounds of next year. Well, it doesn't work, because in the off-season, you are putting down your principles and your ideas. Now, with the Bulldogs, you can see that. They recruited, they've done everything. Everything they've done is geared towards the way they want to play. Yep. The traditional Bulldogs pack are big, strong and aggressive. This, I'd reckon, is the smallest pack in the competition, the Bulldogs. But they're just playing they're playing a very cerebral type of football. Light feet through the middle, short passing. Football they're playing this year, they attempted to play that football from round 1. Yep. And they haven't so much changed. I mean, behind the scenes, week to week, you might just get a tiny little change. Yep. But they've laid a game plan and a principle down. This is how we're going to play it. And as a byproduct of not changing it up, every player knows it inside out. And once that starts to happen, you can start to form combinations. Like the first combination that really formed was the left-hand Burton kick out Bronson Cherry. But then all of a sudden the middlemen, those smaller blokes, they're starting to form combination. And then finally the right edge, Toby Sexton, Connor Tracy, Jacob Preston and Stephen Crichton. So they've got these beautiful little combinations, these pockets of combination right across the field.
Yeah, I think Stephen Crichton started the year at left centre and it had all the ingredients to be the most dominant left side. But for defensively and the team first mentality, Crichton had to go to the right to really shore up that side defensively, and he's done a wonderful job. The other part too is they're a small forward pack, but they're getting the job done through heart and character. The flip side of it, they missed a lot of tackles. They missed more tackles than the Dragons on the weekend. can that scramble defence, the ones where they miss a lot, can it stop Penrith? Can it stop Storm, who don't miss opportunities when given?
I'll say this, Coop. I think there's two types of misses. And the misses are the tackles that they are missing, or get it marked down on the sheet that are missing, I think are low-risk miss tackles. So it's like this, like if you move up in the line nice and strong and you hit kick out and he bounces off you, you get that as a miss. But it's not a bad miss.
Miss to a line break.
Absolutely.
Miss to a quick play.
Well, you find yourself sitting on your heels and they just go straight through you. That's a costly miss. Because it's a smaller pack of forwards, there's a lot of hitting and players bouncing off, but other guys are making the tackles. So they're not bad misses, so to speak.
And the challenge will be, can Marnie, Kurt Mann, Josh Curran, can they do it to Fisher Harris Leota? Can they do it to Nelson? Those bigger packs consistently. But I tell you what, they're working very hard for one another at the moment.
A couple of players I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about Kurt Mann. And it's clear that Cameron Ciraldo has given Kurt Mann clear instructions and clear boundaries. Right? At Newcastle, they almost let Kurt do whatever he wanted to a certain extent. And, you know, he was trying to do a little bit of everything and he'd tie himself in knots and he had no breaks. You're seeing Kurt nearly all of the time. He's running, just late footwork, poking through the line, play the ball quick. Occasionally, a nice little pass, a short pass, or out the back. He's just playing. It's the best football I've seen him play his career. He's still got a little bit of old Kurt in him. Right? And that is sometimes he gets married to a decision too long. Look at this. Here's an example here where he's trying to force a little bit.
He overplays his hand big time here, Kurt Mann, because right now, stop there. If he goes inside shoulder on Mariner, creates one-on-one with Kickow and Ben Hunt, try.
Yep.
But he is trying to finesse this. He's already got to his target defender. He overplays it and turns over the ball. But all he need to do is go arrow straight and inside shoulder Mariner, and that is a try.
And that was a lot of times the tail of the tape at Newcastle. I'd see him. I'd see Kurt, and it was a little bit with Connor Watson when he was there as well. They're high speed, high energy players. But if you let those players basically, if you don't put boundaries around what they're going to tie themselves in knots sometimes.
Yeah, the one thing you probably need to learn on that play is count the numbers. Once you've got the advantage, as a ball player, you don't need to go sideways. You've got the 5-on-4, the 4-on-3. It's go straight to create the advantage outside.
Toby Sexton.
Good performance.
Man, he... since he's come into that football side, they've gone from strength to strength, and so has he.
Yeah, I think they started off with Drew Hutchinson, steady hand, good organiser, but this kid's added to it. Like this couple of try assists he had here, nice kick, that's instinct, that's drifting across the field with time and space and reacting. But the try laid on for Bronson Cherry by pass, this is very smart.
It's a gem, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a tough pass. Yep. That flat cut-out pass and decision at the last moment, that's a really tough ball.
Ben Hunt, he realised Ben Hunt turns in on kick-out and just opens up that space and threw a bullet pass to Cherry. So I think he's added to. And I think the other part, or the indication that says you're being an effective halfback, is the space that he's providing for Connor Tracy and Matt Burton.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are getting a lot of touches and causing damage.
God, what about the role they're on at the moment? Give me a predicted finish. But I'm good.
Dogs?
There's $100. You tell me where they finish.
I think they finish 5th. I think they play a home final.
Right at the end of the... Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they've got a core almost sold out, whoever they're playing. They'll win week 1. And then it's whether that forward pack can go away to the loser of the top and beat their big forward pack. Because you imagine like the Roosters would be pretty scary for that forward pack to handle. I love what their edge defence is doing.
Yeah.
But it's just whether they can win that week 2.
Yeah, my gut feel would be second week of the finals, which would be an amazing achievement. I suppose if they get through that first week and they come up against a Roosters or a Storm or
Penrith,
Sharks, one of those sides, they'll go in with that underdog mentality as they've been playing all year. But, geez, I just think, depending on what side of the draw you sit on, boy, it's big.
To be fair, against the Dragons, they've got a big, powerful forward pack. And there was a lot of reasons for the Dragons to play well against the Dogs, and they got the job done.
Yeah.
Kurt Mann vision, there was a lot of space for Kurt Mann to do his thing. That's the way the Dogs need to play. They need space for the little men to use their footwork and their passing game.
Coop, I heard you say that that you think that they would benefit more from finishing 5th as opposed to getting into that top 4.
Well, they are fighting for fourth spot, and with their momentum and potentially results go their way, they could get there. But this is a team that hasn't played finals for a long time. Mm-hmm. The support at Belmore and the Dogs through this run is getting bigger and bigger. They're coming out of the woodworks. The momentum's building, and I think for a team that hasn't played finals, gets that emotional hit of a home game, finishing 5th or 6th at a core stadium. But they get close to selling it, Matty.
Yeah.
They would go close to selling that out. And for a young team that hasn't got a lot of experience playing finals, that big occasion, being a team that's below them on the ladder, get that adrenaline going. I think they're a better chance of doing that and progressing the next week than...
Keep that winning momentum.
Yeah.
Geez, I tell you, there's every chance week 1 of the finals could be Bulldogs versus Dragons.
Dragons, yep.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, and that would be sold out. That is 90,000 people at a core stadium, and I just feel for the Dogs. If they finish top 4 and play Melbourne at Amy Park, it's going to be a tough deal to bounce back and then win the next week.
Because on the surface, when you said that, I thought, I don't know, but when you explain it like that, there is a lot of merit in it.
And if they get the adrenaline rush of winning in front of their home crowd, then they can go and beat the team that lost in week 1 of the finals, coming down. Hopefully there's something in their favour. But I don't think Cameron Serrato will do this, but if I was him, I'd be playing for 5th.
Yeah, right. It's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah. They have risen dramatically, Coops. And there's one thing synonymous with sides who really shoot the lights out of nowhere. Let's go a couple of examples. Penrith 2003. A lot of people haven't tipped for the wooden spoon. Yeah. They win the competition. Tigers really came out of nowhere in 2005. They're a young side, bit by bit on the rise, but early in that year, they were at the end of some pretty big hidings. They win a competition. What is synonymous with those teams is that they developed their own unique style of football, and the Dogs have done the same. Yep. Basically almost playing without front rowers, light, fast-moving pack, incredibly fit, skill-based game, lots of chain passing. There's elements of the game that actually remind me quite a bit of the 2005 Tigers. But they're not trying to play diet Melbourne. They're not trying to play diet Panthers. Yep. They're playing a Bulldog style of football. Yeah, and the thing about that is it is risk versus reward, because if the game gets in their favour, the ball is live, they have smaller bodies moving around, more agile, absolutely. But if it's stop-start and the opposition has a big forward pack, the bigger bodies will win the collision majority. But one thing I love for the Dogs is their sort of work ethic, their scramble defence, their save more tries than score. That's enough for me as a footy team. Like that's where those middle forwards come into play, because their scramble defence is the best in the comp. They've got such a fast-moving defence line. And to defend like they are, where it's a little bit of outside in and really rushing up, you've got to be fit. It's very hard for a 120-kilo bloke to be going up and back. But of course, they've got the light pack that enables them to do that. And they've evolved too from round 1, because I think we sat here talking about they could potentially have the best left side attack in the comp with Burton, Kickow, Addo-Carr, and at that stage, Kryon was there. Now, Crichton's moved to the right. Yeah. They can still go left through Burton and Kickow. When they go right, they've now got Sexton. They've got Connor Tracy, and what Crichton's doing one-on-one with any other centre at the moment. Oh, man. It's dangerous. Well, talk about the buys of the season. Stephen Crichton's a standout. There's not even a second. But I tell you the other bloke, I tell you who, because of, Crichton's impact, it doesn't so much put him in the shadows, but he's not quite getting, I don't think, the plaudits he deserves, is Bronson Cherry. Now, he's getting plenty of raps. He has been outstanding, Bronson Cherry. I think it's Stephen Crichton is almost by the year, captain of the year. Yep. Like, he has had an incredible season. And Serraldo made that call before the pre-season. Everyone was like, oh, that's a big call. He's going to be captain of your club. Yeah. Well, now we're all sitting back going, that is the greatest decision that he's almost made at that club for a long period of time. And a good guy in terms of come finals time, what he's done at Penrith, what he's experienced, is going to be tenfold of advice to that younger crew. Bulldogs. Yeah. Bulldogs. We're going to move on. I just want to talk about them for a second. Yeah. Do you think they can... Yes, I do. I do think they can win the comp. Do you? Yep, I do. I do. Right. I really like their style of football, and I like their style of football against big sides, against big packs of forwards. It's styles make fights.
Yep.
And that's the thing about it, is that they are playing a unique style of football, which is just so different to anybody else, any of those top sides. It's football intelligence, it's highly skilled fundamentals. There are so many similarities between the way they're playing and the way the Tigers did in 2005.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to come out and do what the Tigers did. I'm not suggesting that.
Yep.
But it's the style of football. It's that high skill base game.
Yep.
And and like the Tigers, it's a style of football that is unique to themselves. They have found their football.
Yeah,
That's a big advantage.
I'll be honest, I thought the Warriors might get them over there with Sean Johnson, and at one stage there it looked like it was going to happen, but they wrestled control back, they didn't get rattled, and they delivered a knockout blow at different stages.
Yep.
Off the top of my head, finals experience, Kickow, Kryon, Addo-Carr. Burton.
Reed, Marty.
Reed, that's right, bits and pieces. I think for a club that hasn't played finals for a long time, lacks, other than Kryon, like genuine leadership in finals times, I think they'll play week one at a core. It'll be 60, 70,000 people, probably against the Dragons. That is a huge moment for our game if that's what happens. Can they handle that? Can they handle it for a month? They could probably get to a prelim.
So many questions. So
Very
few
little
answers at the moment. We'll get there. Righto, Coops. Good on you, man. We're going to talk about the Dogs. Right? We're going to talk about where they are, but what they've done to get them in this position.
Yep.
Why they've improved out of sight. Now, the loss versus Manly, top teams suffer surprise losses going into the final. It's not a big one. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, the Dragons knocked over the Storm.
Yep.
It just happens. Yep. But the style of football, Coops, tell me, what do you think? What has got them? What has been responsible for this dramatic improvement?
Rule number one defensively. They have gone from being the worst to the best. That is a huge jump in points allowed to the opposition, which gives you an opportunity to win every football game you're in. In terms of their attack, I like the fact that they've not got, how can I say this, skill or high-end talent in to try and fix it. They've just gone with character and reliable players. They've got footwork, they've got smaller bodies, but then they go to the fringes, and their fringes are probably bigger bodies. They've got Kryon, Cherry, you've got Kickow there as well. Yeah. So what they do is they've got a lot of footwork dynamic through the middle, and then they've got the big bodies as a threat on the outside. And they've put a good balance together. They're not straight up and down the middle third of the field with smaller bodies. They move the ball sideways a little bit. They do the old, we talk about gaining momentum before you shift. They probably do a little bit of shift to gain momentum, if that makes sense.
Well, it's funny. I said last week, the side that they remind me most about, and a little bit, it's the way they chain pass through the middle and high IQ middlemen, is the Tigers in 2005. Just that, just a little bit of a different way of playing for the forwards. And, there was little things, they were very good. Blokes, there was Scando doing a little bit of short ball playing. Of course, Toddy Payton was a mainstay. But, you think about the Tigers and you always think about how they played sideline to sideline. Yeah. But it was very much this, that high IQ, short passing, chain passing that brought them a lot of results.
And what they did with their middle forwards, not the biggest middle forwards, a bit like the Dogs, so they're not going to ram down the front door. But what they did, their big bodies got into contact, got down, played the ball quick. Yeah. Any ball player can play off a quick play of the ball. That is gold standard, and I think the Dogs have been doing that.
So you see there, I tell you what, geez, he's going to be a lot. He's a lost Kurt man, a real loss. Kurt, when Kurt was at Newcastle, he was always betwixt and between of what he wanted to do. He sort of had scattered focus.
So when we talk about footy IQ, that play there, Kurt Mann knows his target defender, and he got there perfectly. Same as then, using Kickow up as the threat, condensed defenders and the space out the back. I think that was Salmon that ball played then. Yep. So their ball players are pretty switched on in terms of which defenders they need to get to. Big body, straight through, hard to handle on the fringes.
Coops, right up. You just said something there. Right up. Well, let's talk about their defence for 1 second. Yep. And you're right, going forward in the game, the middle of the field is so fast now, and it's so hard for a defensive side once the roll starts to get any ascendancy. So if you think about that, if you think you're going to go into a game, righto, let me reset on that. if you've got really big forwards in the middle of the field or one too many big forwards, oftentimes they're the third man that's got to get back.
Yep.
I mean, that takes a big toll. I was told at South, when Wayne coached South and they had the real big body, Tom Burgess in the pack, whenever Tom was involved in a three-man tackle, regardless of where he was, they said, don't send Tom back.
Because his athleticism doesn't get him back to the line, to fill the line, make it thicker, and he can't get up. Whereas the Dogs, complete opposite, right?
Yep, get backwards and forwards really quickly.
You've got Moran, Reid, Kurt Mann, Salmon, just names off the top of my head, that have the ability and athleticism to get back to that third line, come up and fill. So no one's ever not in the line. One of the things, and I really love what the Dogs have done, their desperation defensively, statistics show up. But the alarming thing for me is they miss the most amount of tackles in the comp, right?
Yeah.
What most missed tackles lead to is quick play the balls. What most missed tackles lead to is line breaks. And there was a couple of tries on the weekend, Turbo's first try, where a lot of missed tackles led to quick ruck, which meant to fatigue and retreating defence, which made a good team capitalise on the missed tackles.
And you're right, Coop. So what it was, even though they've missed a lot of tackles through the season, they're not, and I think we spoke about this, they're not bad misses.
No.
They're but still misses.
But a missed tackle
where they get
can
up.
lead
Whereas on the weekend, sometimes they're caught on their heels and they're driving through. I'm not alarmed by what happened the other night because, their strength and weaknesses in both sides, and all the sides have got strengths and weaknesses. And what we saw the other night is the big pack versus the smaller pack.
Yep.
And probably what happened was the Dogs did not dictate the terms of the fight and make it their style.
Yep.
Now, they got beat up. The big pack beat the smaller guys. But if they went out and played tomorrow, you don't know. The Dogs might play a style of football that brings them into the fight and they might knock them over. So the loss doesn't really worry me.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm not saying that they're zero chance now off the back of that. I still believe that they've got the game style to win week one of the finals, potentially do some damage off the back of that. One thing I was sort of disappointed in a little bit of the Bulldogs, and it's one of the things that I'll have to handle in week one of the finals is big home crowd at a core. There was a lot of reasons to play well. They'd been up for a long period of time, playing against Manly, a lot of talk. We've spoken about this before, the experience of big games in their team. If you just dial it back a little bit, or redline too much, you're probably going to miss your sweet spot. So that might be a lesson for Cameron Ciraldo to talk about.
Let's have a listen to a couple of things. Now, myself and Cooper Johns interviewed Cameron Ciraldo.
Cooper,
Second favourite son. We interviewed Cameron Ciraldo at the start of last week. And the question I asked him is, the style of football you're playing, are you playing that style of football because of the guys you found you recruited, or did you have in mind how you wanted to play and then got those guys? Let's listen to what he had to say.
I don't think we truly found our style until probably 6 weeks ago. I think it was a lot of trial and error for the first probably 19 rounds. Some things worked, some didn't. Then we were able to have the last bye and sort of sit down and have a look at what was working and what wasn't. But we still feel like there's another couple of levels in us that we'd like to find over the next few weeks. But obviously with the way we wanted to play, especially around defence, we needed guys who were fit and mobile. And our recruitment strategy was more around character than anything. It was all about getting good people who want to work hard but are also good connectors of people.
Right up. Now, the other night, let's show one more clip in a second. The other night, the big loss, let's not forget the fact that they didn't have Kurt Mann, that he won't return, so he's gone. But Stephen Kryon, who is so important to the side, what a loss that is. Because as we know, when you sit in the dressing room and you look over and you've got Stephen Kryon or a player like him pulling his boots on, you go, OK, we're going to be OK. Particularly the importance that he is to that team.
Don't care how old Stephen Kryon is, this is a guy that's won 3 in a row. And if I'm an inexperienced Dogs player, I'm looking at him saying, OK, how do I deal with this next period of time that's about to happen?
That's right.
That's exactly what I'd be asking him. So his presence, it didn't deflate the balloon, but it definitely came back a little bit and everyone got a little bit, I don't know, a bit anxious or whatever it was. Slightly.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's have a listen to what Cameron Ciraldo had to say about Stephen Kryon.
The moment he walked in the doors at Belmore, it was a different Stephen Kryon to the one I'd left at Penrith. His first week, Stephen was into an army camp, and the way he walked into that army camp and just took hold of the team, we're all sitting there going, holy shit, this is incredible. But then for the 6 weeks after that, back at training, he just led. People followed him. So, and the guys around that, like Reed and Birdo especially, have been so supportive of him. He's just a winner. Like, he understands what winning looks like. He turns up wanting to win every day, and his preparation feeds into that. And the scary thing, he's only 23, and he's never going to stop having that hunger to win.
Righto, Coops. This is a game of whoever dictates the style of the fight will probably win, because you got mismatches. Yeah. You got Dogs whose forwards are smaller, lighter, more skillful, bit of football IQ, and the big, powerful Manly pack. Yeah, the Dogs have been on the skids defensively the last couple of weeks, but I think the Cowboys just show the blueprint to the whole competition how to beat the Dogs. The way that they played the Cowboys was powerful and short passes through their middle. Create ruck speed, retreating defence, and then you go at them again with either a show and go or a short pass. So I don't think going around the Dogs is the approach. It's about going through them. And the fact is, when you generate quick play the balls and miss tackles, then it leads to something. What Manly did the other week against the Dogs, Paseka, decent play the ball, shift out to the side, another missed tackle, bounced off, ineffective. They get lucky here, but when you miss tackles, quick play the balls, leads to opportunities. So I think the Cowboys showed exactly the way to beat the Bulldogs. Coop, can I ask you a question there? Because you've been in the position that a number of those sides have been in the fact that the Bulldogs, whilst they didn't have a home semi-final locked in, they had their final spot locked in. Yep. To a certain extent, they were treading water, and I've seen you blokes do it at the Melbourne Storm, where you're 6 points clear, 8 points clear with 3 or 4 rounds to go. It's a difficult situation to find yourself in, because looking at the effort there defensively of Viliami and also Bronson Cherry, that is nothing like what they've offered this year as far as effort is concerned. Yeah, and you hope that Ciraldo can turn it on and turn it back on. But got to also remember that it's been a long year for the Dogs with that smaller pack working really hard in defence. I hope they got a little bit of energy for this game, because if they are on the back foot making soft tackles, it's going to create the ruck speed that Cherry Evans needs. Sensing an upset here, Thinking Manly? No, I'm sensing an upset. I'm sensing Bulldogs hitting back. Oh, yeah. On the skids too? Dogs are going to make this a really fast game. Keep the ball in play. Try to fatigue that big pack. Let's be honest, this is the biggest game in the Dogs' recent history. Yep. That's how big it is. Yep. It's going to be 50, 60,000 people at a core. There's a team that hasn't got a lot of finals experience outside of Crichton, Kickow, a little bit of Burton. This is a huge game because they've turned around their ladder position. And if they go on the skids 3 losses in a row, that's a difficult way to go out of the finals. I'm just thinking there, I've forgotten the fact that I live in the Manly area and I've tipped the Dogs. It's a problem because a lot of my neighbours are real dead shits. It's all right. Manly fans. You know, it's all right. Your house sits on top of the hill and everyone else is down below, so they won't. On the hill, please, closer to the beach than that. Coops, the 2 eliminated teams. The Dogs, best story of the season. I tell you, Cameron Ciraldo ended the season under a degree of pressure, probably self-imposed, probably pressure on himself. Mate, he was fantastic. He's proven himself as the coach everyone thought he was. Yep. Worst defensive team last year, shot to the top of the defensive charts, and for the majority of that game, were the dominant team and probably should have gone on to win. He changed the style in terms of he went after, let's say, character and workers and guys who could, tackle, move, be effective, as opposed to, sort of talent and size. Their halves need more experience in big games because a couple of their decisions cost them big time yesterday in that second half. Yep. Like, they had a howling wind behind their back, and all they needed to do in that second half when things got a bit crazy was kick early a couple of times, force Manly to come off their try line more than give away a penalty, kick out, charge down, and a couple of errors that allowed those 2 tries to Manly to win it. If they had a few more big game experience, I think there's a few different changes. They'd probably go on to win that. Yeah, you're right. There were little moments in that second half, like Josh Curran the push,
Yep.
that time, to the ground, your field position. Like to
Silly
give that
move.
away, that's aggression
Yep.
just spilling over in ill discipline.
So Manly were never going to get out of there and end with that wind in their face. The only way they were going to get out was through errors and penalties from the Dogs and that last play, like a trick. Like that was the only way they were going to get out.
Yep.
If Burton had kicked early a couple of occasions, I think it's a different result.
Right.